And if everyone could silence their cell phones, possibly, that would be amazing.
She only says that because of me.
What you say? I ain't heard my.
I just need everyone to silence their cell phones if that's cool.
Oh, yeah, mine's off. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's silent.
Yeah, mine.
Mike, you have people to talk to. It's okay. I understand, but the noise, I just at least the vibration. That's all, not the ringtone.
That's why I put it in my pocket. So then,
So it might stimulate you a little.
exactly. That's it. See, that's exactly what it is.
Is this like the station where you're supposed to be politically correct?
No, not here.
I'm not always.
Neither am I.
Okay.
On the mic.
I'm just
On the mic with Mike. Welcome to On the Mic with Mike. It's the leading daily social enterprise business show in the area. I'm your host, Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine, have no connection to, support of, agreement with any other host, information, ads on the station. I don't work for the station. My program just airs here on a daily basis, and I'm grateful for that. Join me as our cutting edge show. We uplift the community and showcase RVA in a different way. Sounds you're listening to are emanating from the Mike King Biz Studio, which is the global epicenter of social enterprise business. On the Mic with Mike, we highlight partnerships, people, we social enterprise, sports, we even touch on every so often. We talk about issues of the day. To get more information about me, please follow me on all social platforms with hashtag Mike King Biz, hashtag On the Mic with Mike RVA. We'd like to thank our show sponsors, Tom Childry, the credit card guy. So if you have credit card merchant issues, Tom Childry is the man. He's been doing it more than 25 years. And he can help you with some of the changes that's happened due to COVID regulation. Tom Childry, the credit card guy, 804-503-8472. Second hour sponsors, Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers. So he is eco-friendly. You see his trucks around town, lime green trucks going all over. He can remove everything from a single hot tub to an entire household. And he can help you do that. He can't help you get rid of people. He can help you get rid of things. I say if you need people to be going, stop cooking and turn off the internet access. That may encourage them to find domicile elsewhere. But Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers, give them a shout and let them know Mike King sent you. Along the way, we got to pay bills, so please take a listen to other sponsors and advertisers as they help us stay on the air and inform you guys. We are the best business radio program around. On the Mic with Mike, Mike King Biz Radio, ESPN 106.1, as well as the Choice 105.3. That's where you find me today. Well, we got some heavy hitters today. So we got Professor Rebecca Pierce is with us. We got Dr. Danny Gladden Green. We got Sarah Lynn Bagby, and we got Jimmy Comer. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be on my best educated behavior. All of the schooling that the parents paid for and the Army. I'm going to pull it all out today. I don't know if it's enough firepower for these ladies, but I'm going to do my best. Up first, Rebecca Pierce, welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So you are a TV personality, radio personality. You've done that in the past. You're a baker, and you have a TV show, and you're a professor.
Yes, and a writer.
That is true. See, okay. Let's go down. Let's talk about the credentials. So you're what do you lead with first?
I'm an educator first and foremost. Everything that I do is wrapped under education. I call it my big umbrella. So I have some arms underneath my umbrella, and it's writer, teacher, educator. So I don't do anything that doesn't relate to any of those fields. Everything is about art, encompassed in art. So art can be cooking, art is writing, art is teaching, art is speaking. So I try not to get out of my lane because I know what I'm here to do. That's my gift, and I stay in that lane.
You do occupy that lane. So we go back. We had history. We were over at WJFN Radio, but this is the first time in studio physically meeting you. And some of the things you told me I took with me, the expectations of students, because I had asked what's happening with students
Right.
during COVID, and you said you wasn't letting them off the hook.
No.
She said, no, they are
No.
not off the hook.
They're not off the hook. And a lot of them found out the hard way at the end.
Ooh.
No, COVID is not an excuse to not do your best if you're able to. And if you're not able to, that's when you need to communicate with your professors that you're struggling. Because we have resources we can provide you to help you get on track. I mean, mental health services is one of the big things that I push. My sister is a therapist. My background is in healthcare education, healthcare administration. So I have to oftentimes have real serious talks with my students about not only their expectations, but my expectations and the reality of living in a world that is constantly changing. And you have to have support in order to be able to adapt. And that's the big thing that I told my students when COVID first happened last March, we are going to do this thing called adaptability. And you either roll with it, or you're going to have a come to Jesus talk with your parents and your advisors and come back when you're ready.
What did the faces look like when you had that? They didn't believe it, did they?
Some who've had me before and have heard of me, they knew.
You better ask somebody.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like, I'm like the last resort instructor.
They'd look up and say, man, we got to take her class.
Yeah, I'm the last one. People don't like to take my classes. I've had advisors say, oh Lord, my students are crying. They don't want to be in your class. Well, I'm sorry, but if they're going to pay all this money to be here, I'm gonna give them what they paid for.
Ladies and gentlemen, when she told me that one, I'm like, okay, you asked for it, you're paying for it. So you're saying you're not going to have people walking out in the world saying they went to Virginia Union and Rebecca Pierce was their professor and they don't know anything.
Or any school that I work for. No, you're not walking out of my class more blinded or more foolish or more unaware or whatever word you want to use. It
ain't happening.
Changed in some way, yes.
Okay, so here you are, you're an educator. You guys are educators at heart. You are, and everything that you do. Where does the entrepreneurial spirit come from? Like you do a number of other things.
Right. Well, I'm actually excited to talk about that because I'm going to be doing an event soon for a couple of organizations here in Richmond for Juneteenth. And one of the things we'll be talking about is the entrepreneurial spirit. As an African-American woman, it's in my blood. You know, you have to understand the history of Black people in this country is that they've had to be entrepreneurial because they were isolated and or left out because of segregation, Jim Crow, institutionalized racism. And in order to survive, I go back to the word adaptability. So when slaves are brought over here from Africa and different parts of the globe, they had to figure out how to be adaptable. And when you're isolated from a thriving economic community, like we just celebrated or rather honored what happened, in Tulsa, you have to find ways to survive. So like here in Richmond with Jackson Ward, one of my novels is about Jackson Ward in the 1920s, one of the Black Wall Streets. They had to figure out a way to survive inside the city of Richmond because they weren't allowed to frequent or purchase or live in certain parts of Richmond. So you've got to create your own infrastructure. And so, and when you're doing that out of survival, number one, right? So as an entrepreneur, you're looking at not only where a need is and how to fill it, but also how to be a part of the solution. And so in my family, the women in particular have always, you know how it is, the church needs money. So you put together a fish dinner.
Yes.
You start selling dinners.
I grew up on church dinners on Saturday.
Exactly.
Yes.
I grew up Pentecostal church. You had, and my grandmamas were Baptist. Well, one grandma was Baptist, the other was Pentecostal.
So what happened when the Baptist grandma went to the Pentecostal church?
That didn't happen. But I've been to both churches, right? But no, the particularly for Black women, especially also, you have to figure out a way to survive. And so there are many stories in teaching literature, particularly African-American literature. You see these women in the stories, either sewing for a little extra change or cooking a little bit for a little extra change. My grandmother, she was a housemaid for white families, in New Jersey and in Philadelphia and in New York in the early, 1930s and 40s and 50s. So, but you didn't make enough money as a domestic worker. So the entrepreneurial spirit, number one, is from the need to survive, adaptability, and then also to be able to put money aside for the children so that they will have better, to be able to do better. And so it's like I said, I believe in this thing called cellular memory, where we remember the trauma and the occurrences that happen to our people. And when we find ourselves doing things in this modern 21st century, it's not new. I teach my students a lot of things. We read a lot of stories, we see, we hear a lot of the things that are happening. These are things that are recycled. They're not new. We're just figuring out another way to present them in a manner in which it's never been heard or seen or felt before.
It's funny when you talk about that things that are new. So a while back, and we came from conservative radio, so Donald Trump had sort of gotten to a little thing that because he said he made Juneteenth famous. And it was funny that he said a lot of people got up in arms. There were a whole bunch of people who didn't know who Juneteenth was, not until that day, but I was one of them. I'm like, so what happened? And this is probably, I'm close to 50 years old before I had heard of that. So all of the schooling I went to, all through Philadelphia, and these are good schools. A lot of them were, mostly white schools.
Right.
but never had heard of that. So wait a second, this people were free and it took 2 years to tell them, for them to find out.
It took 2 years for them to get to them, yes.
And that's when you think of the time that we live in right now,
Mhm.
that so much is instant. We get
Exactly.
information instant, but this message took 2 years. And then a lot of people didn't know that. One thing we know is the hustle, the struggle, and making it from one day to the next. And so you do get that from your parents. Word is passed down from person to person and from family member to family member. You hear, but you don't exactly know all the things. You get bits and pieces. So with you, it's great that you were able to teach our people and people as a whole what this means, to be educated, to get the information, to say, you know, let's be inclusive. Let's have an understanding of why people are entrepreneurs. It's not like we just woke up and said, boy, you know, I just want to start our own business. It's better to be
No.
like, yo, how we gonna hustle to make it to
Yeah,
tomorrow?
How are we gonna survive? And then we gotta understand about education, because I was raised in a predominantly, I went to PWIs, right? I went to UC Santa Barbara, left there to join the military, came in through the military, and then when I got out, I went to San Francisco State, and then came back here to Virginia and finished at Virginia Commonwealth University. The thing about education is this, and it's so difficult, especially when you're teaching at an HBCU, having come from a PWI.
Go,
But-
let our listeners know what a PWI is.
It was a white university.
Okay,
primarily
there we
white
go.
University, right?
Okay.
So the thing about education is this: you only have but so much time in which to teach. And so the curriculum, depending on the objective of the university, gets compressed. And so unless the teacher is aware of information, knowledge that they can slip into the curriculum, oh, Lord, probably got some administrators listening to me right now, I don't care. But this is how you get it in, because I didn't know this stuff either. And it wasn't until I had professors who snuck it in the curriculum. And then the job of an educator is to present information. The job of a student is to go find the rest. So I can only give you but so much information, and you must go figure out the rest. Find out if I'm telling you the truth, if I'm lying to you, period. So a lot of people didn't know about Juneteenth because it's not something that, number one, people wanted to talk about, both Black and white. And number two, how do you fit that in the curriculum? Where can you sneak that conversation in? How is it going to benefit the students, their knowledge set, their base, right? How are you going to do that? And that's one of the big challenges with education, because there's a lot of things we love to teach our students, but we don't have the time. And the schools don't have the time. But at the same time, there are institutions who don't want you to do it. And so you gotta, in some ways, you know, you gotta find those professors who are willing to do that.
One of Mike ESPN Richmond, Rebecca Pierce here, dropping nuggets of knowledge on us. Okay, so we talked about the education piece. Let's talk about the other entrepreneurial things you do. So like I said, I rolled up, I see Maggie's Cupcakes. It doesn't dawn on me until you say that's the business, so that's you.
Right.
Let's talk about Beyond the Plate, RVA, Maggie's Cupcakes, and the things that you do.
Okay, so Beyond the Plate, RBA started because I love food, if you can't tell. I love food, but I'm not that great of a cook, but I can bake. My mother taught me as a little girl how to bake from scratch. And I mean, 8, 9 years old, I'm in the kitchen making peanut butter cookies, butter cookies, chocolate chip cookies, cakes. I'm learning how to bake from scratch. And she learned from her mother. And unfortunately, my grandma died when I was 12, but I do have memories of her in the kitchen cooking up that scrapple, that, you know, the eggs and
Now
cooking up
see,
the ham. I
for
mean,
folks who don't know what scrapple is,
it's
I'm from
disgusting, but
I'm from Pennsylvania, and we grew up on scrapple. And
I
it'd be
get it.
hard pressed, and scrapple is nasty.
it is disgusting. It's
And-
disgusting.
But the thing is, it's like, what exactly is scrapple?
Everything that's left from the pig.
Exactly, and it's
But again, Black folks had to be industrious to figure out a way to survive. So Beyond the Plate came about because, I mean, I love watching the Food Network, and my brother can throw down. My brother is a cook. He can throw down. And I'm always looking at what are the ways in which to highlight that which is hidden in plain sight.
there you go.
So I said, let's create a cooking show that highlights unknown or not well known or up and coming chefs and bakers in the Richmond, Virginia area. Because even though I'm not a native of Richmond, I love the history that's here. That's why I wrote Murder on 2nd Street, the Jackson Ward murders. That's why I wrote The Secret Life of Lucy Bossman, because there's treasure here that people are not mining. They're looking for the surface level gold when there's really even better gold beneath the surface. And so the stories of the industrial Black people in this community, it's there for people if they want it. So I wanted to showcase these cooks, these chefs, these bakers that people don't know about, bring them on the show have them prepare their best dish, but keeping in mind that families are very busy, hardworking, we don't have a lot of time and don't have a lot of money. So how can I cook something fresh and healthy and fun on a budget on $50 or $75 and my family enjoy it? So we put it together, and then at the same time I decided to launch Maggie's Cupcake Cafe right before COVID shut everything down. And I did that because I love to bake, and I was actually using baking to fund my shows in New York.
That's
I needed
straight
to
up
raise money,
hustling.
right? I needed to raise money to pay my director, pay my actors, pay for the rehearsal studios. You know, when you do festivals or bring a show to New York, off Broadway, off Broadway, whatever, it's a lot of money. People got to take the train to get to your rehearsal spot. So I needed to be creative, because y'all know teaching don't pay squat.
Shocking. Shocking.
You don't get into education
To
for
get
money.
rich.
No.
You ain't breaking it off
right.
like making it rain.
So I believe firmly God gives you more than one gift. One gift may be more dominant than the others, but he gives you more than one. And when you tap into the main one and then branch the others to it, God will bless that whole thing. So I was able to fund all of my shows in New York, DC, North Carolina by doing these baking fundraisers. So Maggie's was launched because I wanted to see what I could do with it. I named it after my friend who died of cancer many years ago. It started out as breast cancer about 35, 40 years ago, long before I met her. And then it came back as brain and lung cancer. And I wanted to honor her memory. And I said, I'm going to name this after her because she was like my second mother. And I knew she would love this idea. She loved it when I was baking for my shows. So she was very proud of that. And so I named that in honor of her. And so Maggie's makes homemade from scratch, with the exception of pie crust, because ain't nobody got time for that. I don't do pie crust from scratch. Pillsbury, call me. But yeah, we make it from scratch. And so, like I said, I don't do anything that's outside of that education. What a lot of people don't know is that, I don't know if anybody's watched the show High on the Hog. Oh my God. That show is awesome because it does everything that I believe in, which is to educate and empower through art. And food is art. When Black people in general, how do you get people to talk to one another? How do you get people to bond over food?
On the mic with Mike, Rebecca Pierce drop. Man, you're even better in person. This was this was good before. I'm like, I thought, okay, Rebecca's gonna come on Zoom. You're like, I'm on the second floor. I'm like, yo, it's a party now. On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond 106.1. We got to go away for a moment, pay some bills. The mic ain't free, plus my grandkids need stuff. Not just Isabella, but Zachariah and Ian as well. We'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank our weather sponsor, Cena Hospitality's good friend Ravi Patel out there. So if you have hotel needs, whether it's rooms or either for an event, make sure you go check out Cena Hospitality. The weather today, 82, showers and thunderstorms high, winds light and variable, chance of rain is 90%, humidity is 82%, UV index is 4 out of 10. The low this evening, 69, and the sunset is at 8:30. So make sure you go check out a good friend, Ravi Patel at Cena Hospitality. When you tell him Mike sent you. Back with Rebecca Pierce, she's rolling with us today. We got Dr. Danny on deck. This is the educated hour for On the Mic with Mike. I'm on my best behavior. So let's talk about your TV show, Beyond the Plate. How can people find that? How can people engage with you so that they can get all the great information that you have?
Okay, so here's a great thing about being a teacher who doesn't like let you fall. I hired one of my former students to do our marketing for the show.
See.
So Rowley Marketing, he's one of the best students I've had. And I can honestly say sometimes, I mean, I've been teaching for 22 years, going on 23. And I am very proud of many of my students who've come through my way, who are doing big things as entrepreneurs, as writers, as business people. So I'm really excited for him. So he created for us a website. So now we have beyondtheplate.com, beyondtheplaterva.com, excuse me, beyondtheplaterva.com. And of course, we have a page on both Facebook and Instagram. So you can look up at Beyond the Plate RVA. Maggie's Cupcake Cafe also is on Instagram under the same name, Maggie's Cupcake Cafe, and Facebook. And of course, all these are all under RLP Productions. So rlpproductions.com, that's where you can find more about the production side of my business. And then me, of course, I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Rebecca Lynn Pierce.
So we're going, let's be clear about the Rebecca.
Yeah.
It ain't the Rebecca from Sunnybrook Farm type spelling.
No, it's Rebecca with a K-A-H. You know, the original biblical spelling, you know, the first Rebecca.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a professor. Okay, no, that was past me. That's okay, fine.
From the Christian Bible.
Okay. On the Mic with Mike, we bring out the best and brightest. Today I do have the thinking cap on because it's needed with that one. So okay, so we got to give a shout out to some people. So you're on Taste on TV. How can people find Taste on TV?
Well, actually, we're on soulvision.tv, the app. You can download
It's
the app.
Soulvision.
But I'll take the hey, call me Taste. I'm here. But
Shout out to BK Fulton and
yes,
the crew.
you got us. We're on his channel under the Chef's Corner.
Okay.
So soulvision.tv. And then of course on our YouTube channel, you can RLP Productions on our YouTube channel, you can catch the show there. We're gonna do a special next week for Juneteenth. We'll be at Mama Michelle's Cafe.
Shout
when
out
the
to
parking lot
Chef.
pull up. Yeah,
Okay.
we want to help highlight the vendors that are going to be out there. And then I'll be doing a special event for Juneteenth, also on June 18th, but I'll post that up on my social media pages so you guys can tune in and learn a little bit more about red velvet cake and strawberry cake and how that's connected to Juneteenth.
So we got to give a shout out to some people who've been on the program. Shout out to the other Philly connection, Chef Ty.
Ty, yes, Lord. By the way, I've had, Lord Jesus, I can't be messing with Chef Ty. I had her turkey burger a couple months ago, and I didn't even get around the corner, y'all. I didn't even get a mile down the street. The whole thing was gone. Lord, can we testify? And she was so awesome on the show. That woman, and we're sister vets. She's a vet too. So
I hear you. I married her. You know, I thank the Army for being a matchmaker for me 40 years ago.
There you go.
All righty. Okay, so we also give a shout out to my man Emmanuel from DB Arcade.
Yes, DB Arcade, and then we want to shout out, of course, Chef Tyrone Workman from Taylor's. And of course, the phenomenal Chef Larry Carey from Diamond Billiards. And then, of course, we've had Miss BK Fulton was on the show this year, and Denise Bell, who did a great fondue.
All righty. Shout out those great folks. On the Mic with Mike, Rebecca Pierce here. We got to go. We'll be back on the other side. Thanks now. Take care.
Bye.